So, what questions do we have for chapter 2?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
So it said for people that are 6 feet or taller, you need to turn it like 180 degrees upside down. What does that mean?
All right. Where are you at in the book? Are you referencing that from the book?
Yeah, from the book. I'm trying to find it here.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, it says it on page 36, paragraph 2.
Okay. So what they're talking about is the rear view mirror. So if I'm in the car and you're looking at me, if I were in the car, so if I were 6 feet or taller, basically what they are saying is as I go to adjust the rear view mirror, for some people that are taller, it might be harder to see the mirror. So what they're saying is turn the mirror upside down so it's easier to see that way. I'll be honest, I've never heard of that before until the information in the book. I will tell you it won't be completely relevant. It won't be on the test. But I think it's just more so for people that are taller can see out the back windshield or out the back window easier. But honestly, I don't know if that makes a ton of difference. With that, while we're talking about mirrors, when they tell you to adjust the mirrors, the side view mirrors, so for those of you that have your book open, turn it to 36. I want you to look at those bottom two pictures. How you should adjust your side view mirrors. I'll give you a second to open that up. I mean, there are a couple of issues that I have with this book, but this is the number one issue I have with this book. Okay, so what they tell you to do when you go to adjust your mirrors is they tell you to kind of turn and look into the mirror. And then when you get to your passenger mirror, to turn and look at the other mirror. Okay. Don't ever do that. Ever. Okay. I get the purpose that they're trying to make with that, which is basically so when you look in the mirror, you're looking into the blind spot. But there are ways of doing that without looking like that on 36. Okay. Can anyone tell me why adjusting your mirrors like that is dumb? And if you think you know, just unmute and share with the class.
I think it's wrong because it says to quickly glance at the mirrors to see your surroundings. So you wouldn't have to lean over like that to see your mirrors. You'd only just look at it with your eyes quickly instead of having to lean over.
Yeah, Nick's absolutely right. If you're adjusting your mirrors like that, if you want to see in your mirrors, you're going to have to look like that when you look in your side mirrors. Okay. So who can tell me that those two pictures are safe while you're driving? It's not going to happen. They are right. You are supposed to glance at your mirrors, but you've got to set your mirrors to where, again, if I'm in the driver's seat, okay, my left hand goes down to adjust the mirror. Okay, so when I go to adjust the driver's side mirror, this is me adjusting the driver's side mirror. Okay, this is my glance because then when I go to glance at it, it's here and it's back. Okay, now my right side over here, I just turn to where I would glance. Okay, notice I'm in the driver's position and it's driver's mirror, passenger mirror, okay? And then I glance up to the rear view mirror and I go to adjust that there. But notice that my body doesn't move at all. It's just my head turns to that glancing position. So now when I'm driving, now it's glance, glance, glance. Okay, that's the way it should be done. Okay, and again, I understand the book's intent, but a very bad habit to get into for adjusting your mirrors. So don't ever do that. What else do you got?
I have a question.
What's up, Tritz?
I mean, it's not really like, but like, do we have to like know? Because like, I know for like each and every car, it like said we're like specific, like, I don't know, like things are, but do we have to know where each and every one is, but for the different cars? Okay.
Um, there's two questions on the test that deal with the location of things. So I'm just going to tell you that one of the questions is where will you typically find windshield wipers? Okay, and I don't mean the location of the windshield wipers because the windshield wipers are the wipers that are on the windshield. Duh. But where would you find the windshield wipers, or where would you find the activation for the windshield wipers? That's what they're asking. Okay, hold on one second here. Okay. So the question will basically be where would you typically find the activation for windshield wipers? So who can tell me at least one place that those are?
I have an answer. On the wheel, on like the left side lever, like the turn signal.
Yep. Some of them have the windshield wipers with the turn signal on your left side. Anyone else? Go ahead.
Or it can be on like the right side of the wheel on its like own separate lever thing.
Yep. Yep, it can be on the right side by itself. So you have a turn signal on the left and a windshield wiper on the right, which in a lot of those vehicles that have that, that's usually where they have cruise control as well. Again, that just depends on the make and model of the vehicle. And then not very common in American cars, but a lot of foreign cars made in foreign countries. A lot of times you'll find them on the dashboard. The only other question about location. High beams. So when you turn on your brights, where can you find those? Go ahead, Peyton.
It's like, I don't know how to explain it, like not like it's the thing that you look into that's behind the wheel, and it's like in that middle circle, and it's like blue, and it looks like a sideways umbrella. It's like water falling. That's how I describe it.
Okay. Or an actual light bulb source that has light coming off. Okay. And that's what the symbol is. So that's where you can find out if your brights are on. Where do you typically find the brights to activate them on the vehicle? Yep, go ahead.
Well, I know in my dad's car, it's on the left turn signal.
Okay. And that's typically where you find them. But in older vehicles, where are some of the brights located?
I think I know.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Charlie.
Is it on like the left side of the steering column?
In newer cars, yep. Kylie, what do you got?
It says that it's on like the floor underneath the parking brake.
Yep. So in some older cars, there's a little button that basically you step on to activate the brights, and then you release to deactivate the brights. Okay. So the thing to remember is in older cars, the brights can be activated by a button on the floor underneath the parking brake. There's your hint. So yeah, that's really the only two questions that you're going to see as far as like specifically identifying. A good majority of your questions are going to deal with your car checks. So just knowing what to do in a pre-car check, knowing what to do in an outside check, an inside check, knowing, well, I say knowing what to look for because in some of the questions it'll be what isn't an example of this. So 3 are right and 1 is wrong, and you're identifying which one's wrong. Okay, as I went through and typed up the test last night, those are probably the hardest questions that I saw. I mean, I don't know. It's different for you versus me because I've been driving for longer than you've been alive. So I know a lot of those questions without even seeing what the answer is. Now, as far as checks go, What you're probably going to find out is most people don't do regular checks. How often are you supposed to do outside of the car checks?
Isn't it like once every month?
Little more often than that. Under the hood checks would be good for about once a month. What about outside the vehicle check? So I'll give you a hint. How often do you approach the outside of your vehicle?
Should they be checked every time you drive?
Every time you drive. Go ahead and speak up if this applies to you, but how many of your parents or siblings check the outside of the vehicle every time they drive? Or before every time they drive? Okay. Guilty as well. Okay. I know I should do it more often. And especially for, an outside the car check, basically what you're looking for is if I get in the car and I back out, am I going to hit anything? I'll be honest, my next door neighbor, she puts the garbage cans out and they kind of make a tighter space for me to get out of my driveway. And I've hammered her trash cans like 3 times. Just because I back out and I forget it's garbage day, and lo and behold, I got to go out and pick up trash. But more importantly, if there's anything important like a bike or something like that behind the vehicle, you don't want to run over things like that. Another important reason to look outside the vehicle, there have been times, I've had it happen a couple of times to me where I go out to my car and before I get ready to go, I've got a flat tire. Okay, that's not something that you want to drive on. And also, is your car leaking any fluids? You definitely want to make sure that that's taken care of, because basically fluids in a vehicle are like blood in your body. You don't want that falling out overnight, because that hurts the body system. Does the same thing to the car. So even just a quick inspection, just, in my personal opinion, obviously not what the book is saying, but for you to just check your tires, do a quick walk around the vehicle to make sure nothing's there, and then look under the vehicle where the hood is to make sure that you're not leaking any fluids. Something that'll take 10 seconds would be good every time before you get into the vehicle. Because, I get it. If you were to do an outside and inside check every time, you're looking at 5 minutes at least before you actually drive anywhere. And honestly, I don't do very well at taking that time. So. What else do you got?
I got one. I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Charlie.
So I saw like the passenger and like the driver have to be like a certain inch away from the airbag. Why does it have to be like different than like the driver and the passenger?
Okay, say that again.
All right, I'll try to find the page. So it's
Okay.
easier. It's one of the first ones, I think. Yeah, page 39.
39, yep.
It says that drivers should be positioned 10 to 12 inches from the steering wheel, and passengers should be positioned 15 to 18 inches from the front passenger airbag.
Okay. I think that's because of a couple of different reasons, and that's fine if, especially if it's for your own knowledge. I know that's not on the test, but obviously the passenger and the driver are in two different situations, and the passenger and the driver have two different airbags. The driver's side airbag is typically right in the steering wheel. So they have to be a little bit closer to the steering wheel. And that's why you always want to make sure that you have at least 10 inches between your body and the steering wheel.
Yeah.
Basically, so that 10 inches at least gives enough time if you get into an accident and the airbag deploys for the airbag to deploy and then your body to hit it.
Okay.
Because one thing that you don't want is the closer you are, the better the chance that the airbag deploys into you, which just means more damage to your body.
Yeah.
Because you want to hit the airbag when it's inflated, not while it's inflating.
Okay.
And same thing for the passenger side. My guess is to be 15 inches away. The passenger side, you have a little bit more space, which means it's going to be a larger airbag.
Yeah.
So, do I know 100% that's the correct answer? No, but I'm just looking at the science and mechanics between the two seats. And I would be surprised if that answer is wrong.
Okay.
But like I said, you won't need to know that for the test, but that's what I feel is the reason for the 10 to 15 inches difference.
Yeah.
I have a question off of Charlie's.
Yeah, go ahead, Peyton.
Okay, so off of his, like how you said that it'd be like that distance, so you like hit the airbag at like the specific time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it said that like elderly passengers should be like all the way back as possible, so they wouldn't even get protected from an airbag.
I think it's too. I think no matter where the seat position is, obviously they do studies of where the seats are. I think the idea of elderly passengers being all the way to the back, and it was what I thought of too, because the first thing they said is their bodies are frail. So what they're trying to do is to minimize the impact with the airbag. It'll still protect them. It'll still keep them safe, but your body and my body can absorb a lot more of that blow than an elderly's body. So if they back that distance up a little bit, that will help minimize the impact from the body to the airbag. Whereas if they were the minimum 15 inches, that could cause more damage than if they were 20 inches per se. What else do you guys have?
Yeah, I have another one.
All right, yeah.
Uh, I think it says on like fluid something, like fluid door release. I don't know, something like that.
Where you at?
Fuel door release. What's that?
Fuel door release.
Yeah.
Um, is that in the pre-drive sequence or?
It's on 45.
Okay, 45 later. Okay. I just wanted to make sure what the point of them getting after that is. So in some vehicles, well, okay, so in every vehicle, there's a gas tank.
Yeah.
Some vehicles have a little latch. I know in my wife's vehicle, so most Hondas have two latches on the driver's side down by the door.
Okay.
So to explain this a little bit easier, Charlie, does a vehicle that you typically drive in have a trunk release?
Yeah.
You either pull up a latch or you push a button and the trunk pops open.
Yeah.
Okay. So in my wife's car, again, these are fairly common in Hondas. They're down on the side of the driver's seat. So there is a button or a lever that you pull up, and that will release the trunk. Just inside that, there's another button that you push down, and as soon as you push that down, that will release the cover for the gas tank. And
okay.
the sole purpose of that is just to prevent people from stealing gas.
Oh. All right.
All right. While you are possibly thinking of some other questions, I'm going to see if I can try and get this to work. Hopefully I can get it to go. And hopefully it works for you. Like I said, if you do come up with other questions, were any of you able to hear that? So can any of you hear that? Okay. So we're good there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and play the video that at least has a better demonstration of the walkthrough. Okay. So hopefully what I can do later on is to be able to get this on video so you can watch this outside of class and we don't have to waste the time of doing it inside. But does anyone have any other questions before I start the video that you came up with? All right. So again, utilize this. If there's something that you missed, take notes on this. Obviously not a requirement, but pay attention to anything that hopefully will help you seeing visually versus reading it in a book. Thumbs up if you can see and hear this okay.
How to set the mirrors to virtually eliminate any blind spots. For your own safety and the safety of your passengers and other people on the road, it's important to do all of these things each time you drive. As you approach your car, take a few seconds to check around, just to make sure there's nothing or it's not. Anything just behind the car will be invisible. Sometimes animals flying shade. But the greatest risk is small children who often find the driveway a great place to ride and play. It's also a good idea to check the car itself for signs of tire damage or signs of trouble underneath, such as leaking fluids. These are the checks you should make before driving each time. Now we're ready to start the driving. Adjusting the seat and the steering wheel are important steps that should be overlooked. To maintain control of your vehicle, you need to sit in a comfortable, erect position squarely in front of the steering wheel. The seat should be the proper distance. You can achieve the proper distance from the wheel by extending your arm and adjusting the seat forward or back until the top of the steering wheel is in line with the palm of your hand. The goal should be to have a nice bend in your elbows when gripping the steering wheel. If the car has an air vent, your chest should be able to connect the elbows from the center of the steering wheel. Your legs should be aligned or joints. You should be able to comfortably reach the accelerator and brake pedals without lifting your knee from the floor. Your right foot should be able to reach the floor behind the rear foot. If the seat is too far back, you might not be able to steer your right front foot or upright front foot. If the seat is too far forward, your arms are bent, and you can't turn your knees forward or near the brake pedal. Next, you need to adjust the steering wheel. It lets you know where you want to go. To adjust the steering wheel, tilt it up or down so the top of the wheel is not even in your shoulders. Some steering wheels even tell us in and out for the front adjustment. You should grip the wheel with both hands positioned directly on either side of the wheel. Basically, your hands are both not a proper hand control position on the block. In this position, you'll have your best leverage and control when turning the wheel. There is an alternative position. Some drivers prefer slightly lower and forward.
Okay. Real quick on that. I'm still pro 10 and 2. I'm good with 9 and 3. If you decide to do 10 and 2, the reason why they're trying to take you away from 10 and 2 is making sure that your hand or your forearms are not in front of the steering wheel. Okay, because when that airbag deploys, it's going to move everything out of its way as it deploys. You want to meet the airbag, not have anything fly away from the airbag. Now, this position, I'm not exactly keen on. The biggest thing is where do you put your elbows? If you have your elbows inside, like your hips, where do you think those elbows are going to go in a crash? Through your body. So just make sure that your elbows are pointed out and away, and nothing is in front of the steering wheel. That's the biggest thing as far as like hand placement.
For some drivers, this is more comfortable. It reduces fatigue and gives them more control over steering. If your hands were higher, say in 10 and 2, you'd risk a bigger chance of injury to your arms and steering wheel better. Maintain control of your vehicle. Any problem. That's why you should always be another adjustment. Starting to drive is the mirrors, which help you know what's around your properly adjusted to inside or rear should be independently back up. Adjusts properly. Now from the outside. Their purpose is to let the steering outside. Make sure you put as all of your force to adjust the left side. Press down against the and set the yards of direction of your vehicle. Set the right mirror lean to the right so your head is directly below the rear mirror or above the center console. Adjust this mirror to the same length so you can clearly see the front side. One hand in the steering position is bigger than the other hand on the cover line or large blind spot. Gently areas on your rear mirrors. Right hand, right arm. Another minimizes the amount of time for other vehicles listening to your steering side. If there are no long ways to go, side was blurred. For example, if this car goes to 75, you see it in your rear mirror. As it moves outward, you see the car move to your side. We now have almost seamless visual time tracking. Still, you can only use all the mirror in your side and see that shoulder rotation. That's the only outside issue. Also, the position of your mirrors is helps your balance. This is especially for preserving your navigation. Just a few more checks and you'll be ready to go. Lock the doors to keep strangers out, and don't keep yourself in if there's a collision. And finally, this is the single most important thing that you can say while say not say wear your safety belt. Basically, safety belts are things that can't properly on hard surfaces. That is the thing. You see, there are actually 3 conditions when a crash occurs. First, the vehicle is not running. Second, the operator is the interior parts of the vehicle, such as the steering wheel or dashboard. Third, the operator is or needs to slam up against your steel structure. It is during this last condition that most injuries occur. Safety belts are designed to prevent ejection and slow the rate of injury before they begin. This, in turn, reduces the chance of flying on contact with hard surfaces. Even collisions and also also reduce shock. Let's take a look at a simple demonstration to show actually all the crashes. They were shocked because they realized those people were just 5 miles per hour. this is a common perception, research shows that most people get stuck in learning or submerged cars. You can always explain that it's just a habit that you picked up, or that it's the other way. Your life is worth way more than that. Buckling up doesn't make it harder. So just how effective are safety belts? Car crashes kill over 30,000 people. Analysis of crashes shows that the chances of survival rate are about 5%. That may not seem like much, unless you are one of the 5%. In terms of injuries, safety belts can help reduce this up to 50%. But how safety belts can be important in this case. In this simulation, you can see should be snug across your chest, although you can still lean forward.
Okay, and I know we spent plenty of time talking about airbags, so we'll go ahead and skip that portion of it. So does that help kind of seeing a visual of some of the things they talk about in the chapter? Yeah, go ahead, Peyton.
I don't know if it was just me, but that I could not like understand the video at all, and like everything was cutting out, and like the pictures were like sequenced because like it wasn't like smooth.
Yeah, it
Okay.
was lagging a bit.
Okay.
I couldn't hear anything at all.
Okay. All right. I apologize for that. Hopefully, I will work on trying to get a better system for that. But the idea is just kind of, they just kind of went through and did some of the basic checks. A lot of it is what we already talked about, just making sure that, you know, tires inflated, nothing behind the vehicle, make sure there's no fluids leaking. They talked about the importance of seat belts, why you should have them, why you should wear them all the time, making sure that they are snug across the hip, and snug across the lowest part of the hip. And it should be snug across your chest, but still have some more play there. And making sure that you're responsible that everyone in your vehicle puts their seatbelt on. All right, any final questions?
Yeah, I have one.
Yeah, go ahead, Charlie.
It's like, let's say you're driving and like, so you see your friend put on the seatbelt, but then they take it off and like you crash. Would you get in trouble for them like getting hurt if they didn't have their seatbelt? on?
No, most likely not. And especially if you're aware, especially if somebody like is in the back seat and they take off their seatbelt.
Yeah.
I don't think you could necessarily be held liable for that. But it always is important before you do put the car in gear, just ensure everyone has it. It's a lot easier nowadays for people in the passenger seat if they take off their seatbelt. Because then in most vehicles, you end up getting an alarm go off reminding the driver or passenger to put their seatbelt on.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I know some of the video comments in there were kind of cheesy because one of the things they talked about were like reasons why people don't wear a seatbelt. And one of the girls said, well, if I wear a seatbelt, it looks like I don't trust the driver. Like, well, here's the thing. You should always trust your good judgment more than you trust any driver. I don't feel guilty whenever I drive kids about putting a seatbelt on because, you know, there's always that chance. And to me, like when I get in the vehicle, anyone that gets into my vehicle, I make sure they have a seatbelt on. And it's not because I don't feel like they would trust me. It's always a what if, you know, I'm okay with my driving, but I don't trust a lot of people that I drive with in terms of other drivers, not in my vehicle, but other people on the road, you know, especially nowadays with cell phones and all that. It happens far too often that, you know, you drive somewhere and see somebody doing some type of distraction.
Okay.
Anything else? All right. If not, video's on. Go ahead, log into Google Classroom and go ahead and take the Chapter 2 test. Good news is, hopefully everyone did Chapter 2 and Chapter 3. We're not going to take the Chapter 3 test today, but we will do the Chapter 3 and Chapter 4 test tomorrow. So hopefully you did the assignment today, so all you have to really focus on is Chapter 4, but we will take the 2 tests tomorrow. I want to try and get that done sooner rather than later, just because then we only have to worry about 1 test per day for the rest of the class. And again, directions for the test. Make sure, answer every question, read through it, and answer each question with the best possible answer.